about word work. So word work refers to one of 5 different areas that we at first grade focus on every single day and every single week. So the word list may change, but every week we start with 5 to 7 words that we highlight for kids that we want them to know by heart. And I'll tell you where to get started in just a sec. But those word work that we refer to is talking about high frequency words, or some teachers call them heart words, the ones you want to know by heart. And they are the foundation of reading. But they're also tricky words. A lot of them aren't usually pronounced the way that they're spelled, so that's why we focus quite a bit on these high frequency words. So for example, the ones I always got stuck on when I was a little kid were was and saw. 2 words, 3 letters, you switch them around and they have totally different meanings, totally different spellings, sort of. And more importantly, was would not be sounded out the way it looks. You would say was. That's not it. It's was. It's W-U-Z if you were spelling it phonetically. But that's the way reading is in English, so it's a little bit tricky. So that's what word work is focusing on. Now, where to start? Whether you are a parent checking out this video because you want to help support your kid at home, that's fantastic. If you're a teacher, this is great too. And so hopefully these strategies will help you whether you're at home, in the classroom, or doing this online. I'm going to give you a couple suggestions on what I think would be really helpful today. So when you're looking at where to start, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to look at what list do you want to use. In our school, we've used the Fry list, which is a list of the top 100 words. Dolch has their own list. Again, it doesn't really matter which list you use. We've also used the Fountas and Pinnell list, which goes in groups of 25, 50, and then 75. And I'll attach all of these below. And you pick the list that you think would be best appropriate for you and your student or you and your students, okay? The first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna ask your students one-on-one, whether it's at home, online, or in the classroom, to identify those words. If you're using an online platform, we've used Seesaw and I've been able to find some fantastic different lists, and the students just read the words. The key piece if you're doing it online is to make sure that parents aren't helping students, because that is how you guide your instruction. And that's the biggest lesson that as a teacher that I want to instill into parents who are trying to supplement their kids. Please let them make mistakes. Let us see those mistakes, just like you want to see the mistakes, because we know when they make the mistakes, that's what we have to teach them. So you're going to start with your list, and you're going to have that student read those words to the best of their ability. If they know it by heart, they'll be able to say saw, is, I, at, was, what? They don't know was. You're going to add that to a list of words that they need to learn, okay? Now, you need to decide when to stop. If that student is struggling and you've reached 7 words and it's taken a few minutes to get there and you feel like that's a good place to start, then stop. If you want to keep going until they've missed 15, you can choose to do that too. You have to read the student and realize when if they reach the point that anything here after that is really not going to benefit you. It's just going to make them frustrated. It's going to make them dislike it. So you just need to stop before they get to that point. I have some kids that when we reach 7 words, we stop right there and I say, that's fantastic. That gives me everything I need to know from you. Good job. And we're going to focus on those words that were a little bit tricky, and I'm going to teach you how to say those words. So that's how you have to start. You can revisit the initial list at increments throughout the year. If you're in the classroom, you can do it online. Of course, if you're at home, it's easier to do. But start with just those initial 7 words. So what to do next, okay? You have your list. They've gotten 7 words at least that you know that they struggle with. I'm going to give you some examples. Here is a student. This is what we call rainbow writing. This is one of the activities. I actually stopped for this student. I would stop at 6 words because I know this student takes a long time to understand those words and they struggle with them. So less is more for this student. I would rather we focus on a few words this week so that they can achieve mastery, and then we'll add a few more words. Some kids get overwhelmed with 7 words. Some kids, to be quite honest, 3 words is perfect and it's going to take them a really long time. That is a small percentage, But just be aware that some of those kids out there, they take longer to learn it, to store that memory, and to be able to pull it repeatedly. Those are also the kids that you're going to bring back these words repeatedly to see, are they storing it in long-term memory and not just short-term memory, which is, I can remember from yesterday to today. Okay? So this is what we call rainbow writing. You write the word in pencil. I used a dry erase marker on my whiteboard, and then they write it in a rainbow color. You're going to make sure that they see it, they say it, and then they spell it. For example, where, W-H-E-R-E, where. Then they're going to say it again, where, W-H-E-R-E. As they're writing, it's okay for them to say it out loud in their head, even out loud if you're at home. That's perfect. The more often that they see it, say it, and hear it, as well as touch it by drawing it, the more likely they are to remember that word. You're building the memory in 3 different ways, okay? Auditory, visual, and a tactile way. So this is one activity. See it, say it, spell it, and rainbow write it. That's one. Some people like Play-Doh, and they will make the activities out of Play-Doh. Not a huge fan of Play-Doh. I mean, personally, I love Play-Doh and I love clay, but to make the word where takes a lot of Play-Doh, a lot of time, and it's not really a good bang for your buck, but you're welcome to try it at home. In the classroom, I just wouldn't use it. I will tell you the things that work really well and that the kids, my kids really like. They love whiteboards. Don't have any whiteboards? Don't worry about it. Get those plastic sheets, stick a white piece of paper in there, and write with either a dry erase or a vis-a-vis, which is wet erase, and you can use wipes and then clean it. You can, of course, use paper. We use paper 1 day a week. They put it in their little word workbooks, and they rainbow write. That's the first day. And they're going to put those words in pencil, and then they can use crayons or markers or colored pencils to write it, rainbow write it. Again, word in pencil, then the rainbow color. You don't want to go through both lists twice. You're trying to build that muscle memory with the different tools all in the same space, okay? Another activity that they really like when they come to small group table is we use trays with sand. You can also use glitter. Glitter is super messy and the custodians don't really like that. So I use sand. Again, we try and keep it really neat, and I tell them at the end of our small group time, if they don't have a huge pile of sand on their table, they've done a fantastic job. So you get sand. You can either go, we have a place close by called S&H. You can go pick up some sand. I picked it up from the beach. Shh, don't tell. It was just 2 jars full. I took it home and I baked it at 300 degrees and I sprayed it with a cleanser and stirred it and then baked it a little bit more. It actually baked for quite a while. So I wanted to make sure it was absolutely pristine. I also sifted out any particles of debris. So it was super clean. It's not the best way to do it, but it's super nice sand and they're really happy with it. You put those in tiny little trays that my mom picked up for me at the dollar store. She's an excellent helper in the classroom. So she picked up some trays from the dollar store. You put about a half a cup into each tray, and the kids, you stack them one on top of each other. You keep them behind you. If you're at home, you can keep them on a shelf. And then when you put it down on the table and you give them the word and they get to write in the sand. When they're done writing in the sand, you check the spelling, and then we say, shh, you're gonna shake, shake, and they go shake, shake. They just really quickly move that tray so they can erase it and then write it again. Do that 2 or 3 times. They love writing in sand. You can also build upon that. So you could give them the first word in sand and say, I want you to write where. Where is it? Give them the word in context. Where are you going? Use your voice to also convey meaning. Where do you think we could get that? I wonder where. Give them several examples. So as they're writing it out, you can ask them, I want to hear you spelling it as you write it out. Okay? Check your spelling. The next word that I would choose, and the reason that this student has 2 of them, is these are tricky words, where and were. They are 1 letter apart, totally different meanings, and it's really tricky. A lot of kids get confused with that. You'll also notice I put me and my together so that they can learn to differentiate those 2 words with just that 1 difference of a letter. They're a little bit tricky. Give them the words in context. Oh my, I didn't know he did that. Goodness me. You can give them several examples. Those are not fantastic ones, but work with it. They just want to hear them in context and as they're writing. I let them write it 1 to 2 times. I check it each time. I tell them to shake, shake, and then I ask them to do it blindly. They love that part. Okay, another activity that you can use, and I'm going to erase the front part of my board, is called 4 corners. Okay, so here's the way 4 corners work. You have 4 corners in a whiteboard, sheet of paper. I try not to waste paper, so I would do it on a whiteboard or the plastic sheets with the piece of paper inside. I'm going to write the word me 4 times in each 4 corners, and each time I'm saying it, I'm saying the letters M-E, me, M-E, me. Here it is. Then I'm going to close my eyes and write it in the center. They love this activity. It's hugely fun. That's another great word work activity. Again, the goal is to get the students to be able to know these high frequency words that are targeted to them specifically so that they can read them quickly. These activities do incorporate writing, but again, the focus isn't on can you write the word me? The goal is to have them be able to read it. Writing is a separate activity. This one incorporates writing, but I'm not assessing their ability to write it. I know it's a little confusing, but I'll explain it better in another video. Another thing that you can do that all you need are note cards, something to hold the note cards together, binder clip, rubber band, doesn't matter. You're going to take those note cards and you're going to write each word on a separate note card. N-E. So that these kids, you can put them together in a stack, you can put them together in a ring, and you'll run through these words with them. So we do this a couple times a week when we come to reading groups. We start with our word work. They review some words. These are ones that I just had printed out. Usually I do them, they're an individual set for each student. So in the small group, each student has their own ring. We call them our rings because they have these. They like them. And you go through each word. How, if they get it, you put a little check mark on the front or on the back if they know it like that. If they struggle with it and say, and you have to give it to them or they don't know it really quickly, then they don't get credit for it. And that's okay. You just tell them the word and say, oh, that's how. It's a little bit tricky. Ow. Those 2 letters make one sound. The hard part is we want kids to read this word, but ow is a complicated sound. So we don't usually get to that till the end of 1st grade because we've got all these other sounds that are so much more important for them to decode. So it's okay to give them the word. How? They'll get it. They're only focusing on a few of them. You might have another word. Might. They might struggle with it. That's okay. Give it to them. They should get it. Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. Once students get it 5 times on 5 separate days, then they get to take it home. That's a huge deal for my kids. They put their initials on it. They take them home. Sometimes they lose them. It doesn't matter. They're really excited that they got to take it off their ring. And then you can add more words. Again, no more than 7 words on a ring because it's a lot for them to focus on. So hopefully this is super helpful for you. We just focused on a few strategies that you can focus on in your classroom, whole group, small group, or at home to work on those high frequency words. Just to review, you've got, first you need to do an assessment. Make sure you have at least 7 words that they need to work on. The second thing you're going to do, or activities that you can do rainbow writing, which is see it, say it, spell it, and then rainbow write it. So you're actually writing it 2 times. Another activity you can do is on whiteboards, where you're doing 4 corners. You can use sand. It's a super fun activity. It's not fun to clean the sand, but after that, they love it. Make sure they brush when they're done though. Shake, shake, brush, then they're done. That's another activity, and then you've got your word rings. So there's 4 activities that you can use to get started on word work, and I hope this was helpful. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what you liked, didn't like. If you need any suggestions, let me know. Thanks for listening.